Hello everyone, welcome on in. It is the second edition of the week of Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. I am Nigel Seeley, and before I introduce you to Sean Calvert, please may I ask you to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, give us a review, and leave us a comment if you've enjoyed. If you've cashed some tickets on the first day, please let us know, and hopefully you have had a good start to the Monte Carlo Open, and it's been a very, very good start for our senior ATP Tour handicapper, Mr. Sean Calvert. Well done, mate. It was a good day. Chiron got the business done at plus 188. Yep. Stan got the first set over the line at plus 110. Unfortunately, Khachanov couldn't get the sweep, but he ran Medvedev very, very close. Good day, though.
Yeah, it was unlucky that was, wasn't it? Khachanov.
Yeah,
on the balance of play, I'm not saying he deserved to win. I'm not saying that. I think Medvedev did probably deserve to win, but just in the situation of the match there, right at the end when Medvedev started cramping, I'm sure you were watching, right at the end in the last game, I think Khachanov was 30-15 up, and then Medvedev's, I think it was his thigh, wasn't it, started cramping, but he won 3 points in a row. I think it probably just focused his mind a little bit. Maybe he went for it a bit more than he normally would, so maybe that helped Medvedev get over the line. But Khachanov started favourite for that match, which, because I was looking at the odds just before the off.
I didn't know that.
Opening show with several books was around about 2.6. I think 2.63 was the first price I saw, plus 163. He actually started that match about minus 102. Excuse me, Khachanov. So quite a few people fancied him. But in all fairness, Medvedev played a very, very good first set until he was 5-1 up. And Khachanov was a little bit injured as well. He's had a back problem, didn't he? I think he got the physio out for that and whatever. But yeah, it's always nice to start. You know, there's nothing worse than a start in a week losing a few outrights or one or two outrights, and then losing a couple of matches. It's bad, isn't it? Puts you on a sort of back foot for the rest of the week. But all the outrights got through. Well, the ones that played anyway. And nice to get a couple of an easy match win with Stanislas Wawrinka. He won that in about 20 minutes, didn't he? That's it. So yeah, it's always nice to get off to a nice start, especially somewhere like Monte Carlo. As I've said before, it's not a great place generally for underdog bettors.
Yeah, I think six underdogs and six favourites won in the first 12 matches. And the underdogs had a good start. And we've got a couple of matches where we've got some decent underdogs as well. Getting your thoughts across them. As I said in the intro, please hit that subscribe button. We're approaching 9,000 subscribers very fast. Loads of content coming across here on the Betting Weekly Studios. Obviously, Game Bet Match, Tennis Betting Weekly Tennis Live launched yesterday. A real good show, myself and Mitch Michaels. And if this drops in time tonight at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. in the UK, we have Mitch and Dustin Fox on episode 2, doing all the in-play over in Monte Carlo. Listen, it's all about tomorrow's action here. This is all about Wednesday's play, and tomorrow morning I'll be flying out to Monte Carlo. I'm not going to be at the tennis on Wednesday, but I'll be there Thursday, and you can follow me at our Instagram account, @BecauseWeWin. And the first match we are going to discuss is a match between Daniil Altmaier against Richard Gasquet. Before we do that, we always check in with Sean to see if there's any change to the conditions. The weather forecast, a little bit overcast tomorrow, not really sunny. It's going to turn a little bit better for Thursday and Friday, thankfully, when I'm there. But tomorrow, a little bit overcast.
Yeah, it's never that warm, is it? Or rarely is it that warm this time of year in Monte Carlo. It's always pretty much the same. Sometimes it can be worse than this, rainy or whatever. But tomorrow, 16 centigrade, not much wind either, which is obviously helpful for the players. I'm not sure about Thursday, Friday. You've obviously checked a little bit
very
more
nice.
closely
Friday
than I
is very nice. Thursday's sunny and good weather, and Friday's the best day of the week.
And then the rain comes after you leave on the Sunday.
And I'm going to tennis on Thursday, and on Friday I've hired a rooftop terrace in Antibes for lunch.
Of course you have. Of course you have.
Overlooking Antibes Harbour. Yeah, no messing about for Seeley.
You're not having an energy bar at Marrakesh like me then?
No. Watching the boats come in, watching the yachts coming in the beautiful town of Antibes. You ever get the chance to go to Antibes Old Town? It's absolutely stunning. I'll be there on Friday.
I mean, seeing as you're refusing point blank to go to Marrakesh, I might just go to Monte Carlo next year just to give it my own perspective.
The problem you've got, sorry, people want to come in for the tips here, but the problem you have here, you've got to base yourself in Nice. Now, the train takes 45 minutes, 40 minutes to get to Monte Carlo. If you want to go on Antibes, it takes like another 40 minutes. So if you stay in Antibes, you've got an hour and a bit journey back and out on the train. So you got to do Ubers. I know you don't really like your Ubers.
Is there a $1 bus?
There's no $1 bus in the French Riviera, my friend. An Uber ride is about 40 euro to get down from Nice down to Antibes, or even when you go further to Cannes, it's even longer. So
If
you got to position yourself geographically right. Nice is the best place to stay.
if anybody can find an inexpensive way to get there, it's probably me. So I'll look into that for next year. I think people will be quite interested to see me in Monte Carlo. I think it's just the juxtaposition.
You won't like it because the venue's so busy.
That's why I've never been. I can't be doing with this. I mean, look, the matches look all right in the morning because there's hardly anybody there. But as soon as people start coming in the afternoon, I'd probably be leaving. I couldn't handle that. Unless there was some matches, obviously, on the outside court, which no one else was interested in, but I would be.
That's still busy.
Is it?
It's such a tiny little venue. You're all crammed in.
It looks. That's why I've never been. I'm not. It doesn't strike me as interesting. But I'd just be doing it for the sake of content. I think it might be quite interesting to see me moaning at Monte Carlo. But anyway, just statistically, I mean, for me, it looked pretty slow yesterday. I think it wasn't sunny. Particularly looked quite heavy. It's always, as I said, one of the slowest clay court tournaments of the year. So unless it's like baking sunshine, it's always going to be that way. I've got some stats on round 2. Actually, it's not a great round for underdogs either. 24% on average have won in the last 11 editions, and interestingly, no qualifier has been past round 2 since 2019. So the last 4 editions, the qualifiers that have made it past the opening round have not gone on to go further. So, yeah, where are we? Altmaier against Gasquet. Are we doing this now?
Altmaier's a qualifier, isn't he? So Altmaier's a qualifier. I'm just looking at the draws just to check that Altmaier was a qualifier. He is a qualifier. Gasquet's got given a wild card, so he's not a qualifier. So Altmaier could make a bit of history here, recent history, but he's a heavy favourite to do so. He's minus 230 with Bet-Rivs. Richard Gasquet plus 180, rolled back the years with a big win against Arnaldi. Crowd was going wild for him. Altmaier had a big win yesterday against Felix Auger-Aliassime. I thought that was a big price, 2-1. I bet that yesterday. I know we didn't preview that match on the show, but
because he was a qualifier, wasn't it?
2-1. Altmaier was a big price against Felix. I thought it was massive. 3.5 the spread. Total is 21.5 here. We do have some head-to-head records to go by, and we have clay court head-to-head records to go by. They met 3 times previously. Richard Gasquet leads 2-1. Obviously, the 2 of them, when he did win, were back in 2021 in Umag and Palma. The most recent was in Hamburg in 2023, where Altmaier won 7-5, 6-4. And Richard Gasquet, at his age, I mean, this is going to be his final Monte Carlo Open. The fans are going to be right behind him, but he's played the last 3 matches, have gone the distance. And he had a long match against Arnaldi. Altmaier had it a little bit more easier. Hence the reason why he's a plus 180 favourite, I can imagine. But the crowd will be massively behind the Frenchman. He's a popular player, and he's going to have all of the support against Altmaier in this match. Yeah,
this is the first set of odds that I looked at and I thought, what? Really? Minus 230, Altmaier? I don't think I'd back Altmaier at minus 230 against anybody. Well, very, very few people. Obviously, some people I would, but not for me.
Against me, you bet.
Against you, probably, yeah, I'd take that, and me, obviously. But
I'm not sure. You might be a bit of value.
He's, I don't think so. He's not what you would call reliable, but by any stretch. I think Gasquet's got a few things in his favour here. Obviously, he's playing his final Monte Carlo, as you said. Already beaten Arnaldi, which is an excellent result. Obviously, beat Van der Zandschulp last week. Took a set off Caboli as well in Bucharest, who went on to win the tournament. So his recent form is solid. But there's other things here at play. I mean, he knows this court Rainier better than anybody, really. Better than most, certainly. I assume he's going to be on that court again. I'd be very surprised if they put him on a different court. And, it's always a good tactic for me, backing players where one player has had that court experience and the other player hasn't. He's coming from an outside court. It might not sound like much, but it is. It's very, very different conditions. I think that's a decent advantage. I mean, Gasquet's played 27 matches here, 18 wins. Very good record. Service points won and return points won, total of 104. Yes, I accept that some of those were many years ago, but Altmaier's only played 1 match here in the main draw in his career. That was yesterday. He's the kind of player that I would prefer backing at bigger prices, like you did yesterday against Felix or whatever. That's the sort of situation for me that he feels more comfortable in. The other thing I like about Gasquet here is that he's going to have 2 clear days off because he played on the Sunday. Gasquet played on the first day on Sunday, so he's not playing till Wednesday. So the organisers are doing him a favour here. They're giving him 2 clear days off. I'm assuming they're giving him the court Rainier. I'd be amazed if they didn't. And if you look at their head-to-head, I feel like I backed Gasquet against Altmaier in that Hamburg match. I was either there, I think I was there in 2023. I definitely was in Hamburg.
I was. Me and you were in Hamburg. There was a picture of us down the Reeperbahn in 2023.
That's it. Yeah, that was 2023, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like I was there for that match. I'm pretty sure I backed Gasquet, and he was really kind of lackluster, and it was still a relatively tight win. I do remember being on the Reeperbahn with you, actually. Yeah,
I think that might have been 2024. I was there 2023. I think it might be 2024. Was it last year?
I don't think so.
Oh, it must have been that.
Nights
down the Reeperbahn with Sean. They merge into one. I can't remember them. They all become a vague picture, an image.
I remember somebody playing that Sweet Caroline in one of them bars.
I dedicated that for you.
I feel like that was that last year.
I think it was the year before, but anyway, I think it was last year, and I think I went the year before. I've been twice, and I've only been doing this for a couple of years. So I think 2024 we went. I was there 2023, and it absolutely bucketed it down.
Yeah, it was raining. It was bad weather when I went. Anyway, our memories clearly aren't that great. But if you look at their head-to-head, service points won and return points won totals of the three matches, very, very close. Altmaier 101, Gasquet 99. Can't really get a great deal closer than that. If you look at the last 10 main level matches both of these guys have played on clay, it's actually Gasquet with the better record. 40% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 99. Altmaier just a 30% win rate and a total of 98. So on recent clay form, slight edge to Gasquet. I mentioned all the other sort of parameters in this match that I feel are giving Gasquet a better chance than these odds suggest. The other thing I looked at is Altmaier's record on his favourite surface of clay when he's been priced up in this sort of price range between 1.4 and 1.6. That's between about minus 250 and minus 167. You'd have lost money if you'd have backed him in all those matches. He's only won 5 out of 10. So you would certainly have lost money. He was priced up, as I said, in that range in every single one of those. So this is not a great situation for me for Altmaier. He's got to take on the crowd as well, which you said would be, 98% in favour of Gasquet, I should imagine. This is his last stand. I often like backing players who are just about to retire in their final tournament because they get an extra sort of 5-10% just from the situation. He's already showed it against Arnaldi. If he can beat Arnaldi, I don't see any reason why he can't beat Altmaier. So this just looks short for me. Plus 180 for me, Gasquet. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, there has been a little bit of money, Mo, for Altmaier, since the odds have first released. There was a bit of money for him. That's good for us. With the more interest, the better. And if you do want to bet Richard Gasquet on his farewell Monte Carlo Masters, you want to get across early because these matches are scheduled to start at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, Eastern time. And there'll be 28 different markets available on the Bet Rivers app and the website. And if you download the app or have a bet on this match, you'll be able to bet live and watch live. You'll be able to watch any of the matches in Monte Carlo on the app or on your mobile, your tablet or your PC. Let's move on to our second match. And it is Novak Djokovic, the tournament's second favourite, up against Alejandro Tabilo. Tabilo lost the first set, as we predicted, against Stanislav Wawrinka yesterday, but he came back. The 40-year-old's legs weren't there in the final set, and Tabilo ended a sorry run with a very, very much-needed confidence-boosting win, which he got to set up this match against Novak Djokovic, a two-time champion here in Monte Carlo. If you like your head-to-heads, you might want to be betting the Chilean here. He leads 1-0 in the head-to-head. It was last year in Rome on clay, and he dismantled Djokovic 6-2, 6-3 on that occasion. Was that the one where they threw the bottle? Was that the one where he threw the...
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
It was,
I think
it
was, yeah. I think
it was.
I think it was that. Unless that was Madrid and Madrid
No,
was before.
I'm sure it was Rome. I'm sure it was Rome threw the bottle at him. But anyway,
it was around that time, yeah. It was around that time.
Djokovic is a very, very heavy favourite here. He's minus 670. Obviously, he reached the final of Miami a couple of weeks back. Tabilo is plus 475. His spread is a massive 5.5. I mean, Djokovic, we know, slow start on clay. Tabilo is a clay quarter. He's had the luxury of playing a match, as Sean said there, on this court. And the total here is 20.5, which again looks quite cheap for me on the over at minus 106. Djokovic is a favourite, but minus 670 on his first match on clay? Interesting.
I think you'd be a little bit brave. Or maybe naive to take Djokovic at minus 670 here, given the circumstances. Tennis fortunes can turn very quickly. Tabilo could go from being a sort of heartbreaking loss for us as well, by the way, to Jensen, Brooksby and Houston, and then getting outplayed by Wawrinka. I mean, Wawrinka absolutely crushed him in that first set. It was like 20 minutes or something. He could go from that situation, which is kind of rock bottom, to potentially beating Novak Djokovic in a matter of days here. I mean, Djokovic has lost here to what you would call lesser players, if you like, numerous times. He's lost to Dan Evans here, Davidovich Fokina, Goffin, Yuri Vesely beat him here. Musetti beat him here. Not that I would call Musetti a lesser player, but players that he would expect to beat pretty much every time. He's struggled against them. He's only made one semi-final here since 2015, Djokovic. So plenty of early losses on his record. He's spoken many times about how he takes a period of time to adapt to the clay. It's not easy changing surfaces, particularly someone that's gone all the way in Miami, hasn't had that long to kind of prepare for this. Everything's just feels like it's a bit of a problem for Djokovic at the minute. He's coming in cold, as I said. He's had that eye infection that looked really nasty, that hampered him in the Miami final. He was talking about that on Monday. Still hasn't cleared up, apparently. So you wonder how much really intense practice he's been able to do on the clay. He's also playing a left-hander in his first match. Which is not easy either, and he's not played a left-hander since the Olympics last July. So that's another one to sort of throw into the mix here. As far as Tabilo is concerned, he beat Djokovic, as you said, in Rome very, very easily, 119 to 81 in terms of service points won and return points won totals that day. Didn't even face a break point. I know Djokovic had an absolute shocker that day, and he was booed off. I seem to remember the crowd booing him off that day. He was really, really bad. But that's not Tabilo's fault. Tabilo did what he had to do, and he did it very well. I know he was in great form then, and he's not in such good form now. But in his mind, surely that will be an advantage that he could not only beat Djokovic, but beat him, pretty handily. The 2.5 hours he played against Wawrinka will help him as well. I'm assuming again that's going to be the same court. It was on Rainier against Wawrinka. I can't imagine they'll put Djokovic on anywhere else. So I presume it'd be the same court, which is, again, an advantage. This is just about circumstances. I wouldn't normally expect Tabilo to beat Novak Djokovic on a sort of level playing field, but, there's a lot of factors at play here, the ones that I just mentioned. And, Tabilo should be thinking, his team should be saying, look, you've already beaten this guy at this level, on this surface. And mentioning all the things, that I've just mentioned. Whether Tabilo is confident enough to go on and win the match at the minute, I'm not too sure. But Tabilo plus 1.5 sets for me is plus 155 for Bet Rivers. If Djokovic walks off here with the straight sets win, he would be absolutely delighted, I think.
I think there's a lot of markets you can get with Tabilo. I think the 5.5 is quite cheap. I think the over 20.5 looks cheap, and the money line even. You get the great trading price.
I wouldn't put anybody off that. No?
Yeah, I think it's a real nice trading price. I just looked at the records. It was the match against Corentin Moutet in the Italian Open, the second round where Djokovic got hit by the bottle, and then he played Tabilo in round 3 and got beat. And there was a sort of a feeling that he didn't really put it in because he wanted to get out of the competition because of what happened before, he feigning his injury and stuff like that.
Hit by a bottle. I
know.
Yeah,
it happens in my local Witherspoons on a Friday night. It's normal occurrence in South London.
That happens every week.
If you don't get hit by a bottle in South London on a Friday night, you're doing something wrong. It's the norm. It's the norm. The only thing I will say about the eye infection, obviously clay is a surface where obviously there's a lot of stuff going in your eye, a lot of dust coming around. Yeah, that's not ideal, is it?
No,
it's
not.
If you've got an eye infection, that's not the surface you want to be playing on.
No, it's not. And he had that. I don't know whether you saw the photo. I'm sure he did. He had that big red. I don't know why I'm pointing. I'm doing a podcast. Nobody can see me.
I know where the eyes are. We know where the eyes are. I don't know why I'm doing that. I don't know. Anyway, it was a big red lump, wasn't it? And it was still there a few days ago. So, I can't think that's a massive factor, but it was certainly a factor in him losing that final to Mensik in Miami. Probably less of a factor now, but yeah, as you said, the clay, the dust, bits of clay coming up, it all just feels to me like it just could be another one of them Djokovic struggles in Monte Carlo. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's enough in this to make me think that Tabilo's got a better chance than those odds are saying that he has. Yeah, head across to the BetRivers website, download the app, lots of different markets, 28 different markets. And remember, very early start, 5 a.m. I keep telling you that, because in case you miss these bets, you've got to get on. And this is a tournament we've done really, really well on in the last couple of years. We've had the winner the last couple of years, and we started off hot. So the weather gets hotter. So does Mr. Calvert. Let's move on to our final 2 matches. We're at the halfway stage. And this is the biggest match of the day for me tomorrow. It's one I really want to watch. It's Carlos Alcaraz. He's up against Francisco Cerundolo. Alcaraz has only ever played 1 match here. and he got beat. He never won a match in Monte Carlo. This is only his second ever match. He plays Francisco Cerundolo, who is a quality player in arguably some of the best form of his life. Alcaraz is the number 2 seed. He's a tournament favourite. He's a very heavy favourite to win this event, plus 125, despite his terrible record. And he's a short price favourite to win tomorrow, minus 420 with the Argentinian plus 310. The spread is 4.5 and the total looks cheap again here, 20.5. They have met twice before. They met already this year in Indian Wells and the slow conditions. And that 20.5 went over with a 6-3, 7-6 win for Alcaraz. Then they met in Queen's Club on grass in 2024. Alcaraz won 6-1, 7-5. And then the only time they met on clay was in a futures event back in 2019. Slightly irrelevant, but Cerundolo did win their only time they've ever played on a clay court. Cerundolo is one of our tips, one of our 4 picks to win it this week. And obviously, if we can get past this one, we're going to third in price on the outright market, I would have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, Rublev's halved already, and he hasn't even played a match yet.
And he's got a tricky match. And he's got to play Monfils in France. I mean, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect Rublev to win that. Monfils not at his best on clay, but, Monfils is playing well at the minute. But, yeah, it just shows you the value was there. And, that's what we try and do on this show, try and point out the value. So, excuse me, yeah, this is a similar idea to the one I've just talked about with Djokovic. If you're not on the Cerundolo outright, a lot of people, don't bet outright. They just do match bets. This has got the potential to be either an upset or at least a tough test for the heavy favourite. Alcaraz is coming in here after losing to Goffin, losing to Draper in Indian Wells. You wouldn't expect him to lose either of those matches, really, but he certainly did. And, there's a few theories flying about Alcaraz, one of which is that maybe he's been struggling with the pressure of being expected to win all the time or a lot of the time while Sinner is banned and try and make hay while the sun shines, if you like, in the rankings and try and overtake Sinner. That hasn't happened. You could argue the same thing maybe as has been the case with Zverev, who's also had that opportunity, which he most certainly hasn't taken as of yet. That's a possibility. He made some changes to his game pre-season, slightly heavier racket, playing more aggressively. So there's been changes for Alcaraz, and it hasn't. It's not exactly worked that well so far. As you said, he's unfamiliar with this tournament. He's only played the one match so far. I mean, if this is a night match, or an evening match, which it could be, it could very well be, then Cerundolo's had great preparation because he played in the evening last night on Rainier against what's left of Fabio Fognini, and he won pretty easily. But if it is an evening match, then that would be the absolutely ideal preparation for Cerundolo. I'm sure it'll be on Rainier. I can't see it being anywhere else. So at the very least, Cerundolo's already played on that court, which, as I said, is an advantage. Yeah, he's beaten Alcaraz on clay already. Played him once, long time ago, 5-6 years ago. But again, it should be in his locker somewhere, in the back of his mind, that he can beat this guy on clay. Statistically, the form is quite similar in terms of their records. Last 10 matches at main level, Cerundolo service points won and return points won, total of 107, which is excellent. Alcaraz only one ahead on 108. So on pure form, it's closer than those odds suggest. As I mentioned before, Cerundolo got a very good record against the best players in the game. Last 12 months against the current top 10, he's won almost half his matches, Cerundolo. 47% win rate. Service points won and return points won, total of 98. So he's pretty much held his own against the very best players in the world. Alcaraz, slightly better record, 56% win rate and a total of 101. But again, it's not, there aren't massive gaps between these numbers. Cerundolo, as you said, he's in the best form probably of his career so far. If he approaches this the right way, which sometimes he doesn't, I think he's got every chance of, if not securing the upset, then certainly taking the spread and the totals over 20.5 or plus 4.5. Certainly got those in his sights. So if you're not on Cerundolo already, maybe take a chance on him on the money line, plus 310. But yeah, I probably won't go in again because for me, if he wins this match, Cerundolo, that half of the draw is open and he could well make the final, which was obviously the thinking in the first place. So I personally won't go in again, but I wouldn't put anybody off doing just that.
Yeah, I think there's some lovely props here. I love the over 20.5. I love the 4.5 Cerundolo. Again, I think plus 310 to trade. You can trade it. Alcaraz isn't winning easy, and he's very, his service isn't been as strong as it has been over the last couple of years, this season. He's broken a lot of times, and I think that Cerundolo's got a great chance here. The thing is with Cerundolo, he beats himself up a little bit sometimes.
He does. Yeah.
He's got a great record against his top players, but he sort of lets you down when you expect him to do so. But if he can keep it together and his camp get behind him, I think he's got a good chance. Let's move on to our final match, and we spoke about him at the start of the tournament, at the start of the show. Medvedev, he struggled past his friend and his countryman, Karin Khachanov, and he's up against a Frenchman who's in good form, actually. Alexandre Muller, he had a good season, not in the best of form. He's up to his career high of 39. I don't know about you, but I want to take on Medvedev after what I saw yesterday and cramping up and styles like that, but I'm not quite sure whether Alexandre Muller is the man capable of doing it. But there's a price, and there's a price. Medvedev is minus 240 to win on the money line. Alexandre Muller is plus 188. Spread is 3.5, and the total here is 21.5. They have met once before on the main tour. That was at Wimbledon in 2024, where it was a close match, but Medvedev recovered from losing the first set to winning 4 sets. But in a challenger event in 2016, Muller fans or Muller bettors, close your ears. And I'm going to do a Sean Calvert here. Your ears. Put your hands up. That's your ears. It's 6-love for Medvedev won. Didn't even get a game. So I reckon the thought process here is that we've got to get against Medvedev some way. But is Alexandre Muller the man who can get it job done? That's the big question.
I mean, he might not win the match, Muller, but I would expect him to make it close on clay against Medvedev. I mean, he, as you said, and as I said earlier, Medvedev did not look in great condition by the end of that match with Khachanov. I certainly haven't seen Medvedev very often struggling physically. He seems to be the kind of player that can play all day, every day. He's not like a
That's
whole
probably why he's struggling physically.
Possibly, but he hasn't been playing all day every day, has he? He's barely played. He's only played one match since Indian Wells, which was 2 now, which was weeks ago. He never seems to be a player that I would think he's about to go physically. Whereas you think someone like a Rune or whatever, you just think there's a cramp coming. But slightly unusual for Medvedev. A little bit fortunate, really, that he won the last 3 points to win that match. I think it could have gone the other way if Khachanov had held serve at 4-5 there, held on for 5-5. It might well have gone the other way for him. So you wonder how he's going to shape up tomorrow. Let's assume he's okay. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, Muller gave him a very good test at Wimbledon last year. You forget that hardcourt match. It was like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Very different situation now. 3.5 hours that Wimbledon match was, 4 long sets. Medvedev winning 7-5 in the fourth. It's a very, very good test for him. And you got to remember, Muller is having his career season, his best season by far.
Medvedev's having his worst season, arguably say, probably his worst year since he's been on the tour.
Yeah, I mean, he's not made a final for quite some time, Medvedev. The last sort of 9-12 months or whatever, it's not been good for him at all. His stats are still all right, actually, Medvedev. This season, 65% win rate and service points won and return points, win total of 107. You would expect, he's just been losing a couple of matches that he should win. The consistency isn't there. Griekspoor he should have beaten. Ended up losing. Munar was a dreadful performance, but he came out much more focused against Khachanov, almost ran away with that first set yesterday. Some of that will probably be that he's had more time to prepare on clay this year than previous years. He's normally gone deep in Miami. That wasn't the case this year, so maybe he's had more time to prepare. But there's other factors at play here. There's other parameters here. If you look at the last 12 months at main level against current players in the current top 20, it's very, very similar records. Medvedev, just a 35% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of 95. And Muller, 40% win rate and a total of 94. So in the last year against the best players in the world, they've been playing at a similar level. Muller's got more wins, incidentally. We know Medvedev's not as effective on clay. Last 12 months at main level, Medvedev's service points won and return points won total is 104. Muller 101. So again, not too far behind. And Medvedev only winning 47% of his second serve points on this surface. He only won 33% against Khachanov yesterday in a match that was hugely return dominated. Every game was a real war, wasn't it? Now, if we move on to Medvedev against top 50 ranked opponents on clay, Muller's obviously comfortably inside the top 50 at the minute at 39. His career win rate is only 51%, Medvedev, on clay against top 50 opponents. Immediately, I'll be looking at that minus 240 and not seeing any value. And if he is winning, it's taken him a long time to do it. Against the top 50 again in the last 2 clay swings, Medvedev, when he has won the match, he's only won it in under 22.5 games, 5 times in 18 matches. So only 28% of the time is he beating top 50 players in under 22.5 games on clay. So I feel like it's going to be a decent test. Medvedev will probably win it, but I wouldn't be that sure. So over 22.5 games for me here. When I looked earlier, it was plus 105. Not sure what it is now, but over 22.5 was plus 105 at Bet Rivers when I looked earlier on.
Yeah, plus 20, over 22.5 is plus 105. Over 21.5 is minus 127, depending which one you play. Our official pick is going to be over 22.5. So the general consensus is Medvedev isn't going to make light work of Muller, is he really?
Oh, yeah, here we go.
I try to deliver that Muller light. I try to deliver that in a better way. I coughed in the middle of it, which I was building up to. Anyway,
it took me a second to realise what you were doing there.
I know.
I'm not familiar with brandings.
I do try anyway. Give us your official pick, Sean.
So the first 2, I think, are the strongest ideas that I've got about tomorrow's play. I think Gasquet is a good price to beat Daniil Altmaier. I can't remember exactly what that price was. Around about 2.8, I think. Off the top of my head. And the other one, which was Alejandro Tabilo plus 1.5 sets to beat Djokovic at plus 155 at Bet Rivers.
Yeah, plus 180 Richard Gasquet, plus 155 Tabilo, plus 1.5 sets. We've got a cheer on Cerundolo on the outright market. We've got a lean for Medvedev on the overs. And we started off the tournament in great form. Remember, as I said at the top of the show, Betting Weekly Tennis Live is live every day, Monday through to Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 o'clock in the UK. If this podcast drops in time, we have Mitch Michaels and we have Dustin Fox on tonight. And tomorrow we'll have Roy Giovanni and Tim Dennis previewing the action in play in Monte Carlo. And I will be there tomorrow, and myself and Sean will catch up on the final Betting Weekly game bet and the match of the week when I'm allowed into the hotel at around about 2:30 p.m. UK time, which is about that's 10:30 in the morning Eastern time, and that will drop sometime tomorrow evening. That's it for today. Good luck with your bets. Good luck with everything you'll do tomorrow, Sean.
Thank you.
Hopefully we can continue this good run we're having at the moment. We've got an updated figure. Well, the figure's not so great at the moment. Minus 14.81 points, but there's a lot of tennis to go.
10 of them are from outrights that have not completed the tournament.
Yep, 10 outrights, not completions, and the other 4.81 are from real bad beats. None of them are bad picks. Anyway, that's it for the show today. Maybe. 1 or 2. That's it for the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow, as I said. Lots of content coming your way. And also Champions League. What a big night. I forgot so much coming. I forgot the Champions League. Big night
and
tonight.
West Brom are playing.
Not in the Champions League, they're not. They're playing tonight, but they're not in the Champions League. Arsenal up against Real Madrid on Betting Weekly Live, and tomorrow as well, we're previewing the other 2 semi-finals in the biggest club competition in the world. It's all happening here on Betting Weekly Studios. Make sure you subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment. Hope you enjoyed the content. Good luck with your bet, Sean, and we'll speak again tomorrow. Take care.